Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to my channel, Data Driven Decisions. A very important concept in any job is to cover your ass. In business intelligence, um, you're always going to have dashboards that break, or the stakeholders tell you that there's something wrong with the dashboard. The metrics aren't right. Um, and it's your job as a business intelligence engineer to then figure out whether the problem is in your realm or is it upstream from your realm. So when it comes to a lot of my projects that I do as a consulting, the first thing I do when tables get brought into my universe is to validate them. I create um, single row queries um, on the entire table just to study the KPIs over time. So every time, every day, every time the data refreshes, there's a query that just snapshots a row of KPI high-level statistics of the entire table, and I stack each row on top of each other to make a transaction table of every time the table was updated to see what's changed. And that's always going to allow me to answer that question when there is a problem. Is the problem in my realm or is it upstream from me? I go to these validation tables. If there's an issue with the dashboards, figure out whether there is an ETL breakage, whether upstream and the data engineers did something wrong with the table. And that's usually the problem. So let me share my screen and I'll show you. All right, so this is my validation dashboard. And it's focusing on one of the main transaction tables of this project, which is timesheet data. And the most important KPI that is always present in every single table is its row count. You want to snapshot the row count to see whether that has drastically changed since prior runs. So in this plot right here is the run count throughout the entirety of the project. So you see how it slowly increased, and then gradually increased, and then sometime it just fell off a cliff, and it's got very few rows in it now, and it's stayed that way for a long time. That's because there once was years and years of history in this timesheet data, but now they only keep a rolling year simply because they couldn't figure out how to grab the entire transaction history. And it's a real big bummer because it makes a lot of the visualizations, the ones that span across a long time, to be not right or irrelevant. So, it has caused major problems, but I've had an eye on it the entire time saying, hey, you guys don't have all the data. You guys only have the rolling year. Try to get the full year, and it just hasn't been possible, unfortunately, and we're just stuck with only having a rolling year. But nonetheless, I'm keeping an eye on it. This dashboard lets me see, the runs that have taken place over time, just to allow me to figure out what's accurate and what's not. Let me hone in on just to show the most recent 500 runs. You see sometime a few weeks ago there were 0 rows in the table, and that obviously was an error. So right now accurate is just to have about 520 projects, but sometimes the ETL goes bad and it ends up with far less. How do I make this? I make this in any SQL. So here's the first query that has just produces one row. There's no dimensions in it. It's just a bunch of metrics that I calculate, just high level KPIs on the table. And this is what I study over time. So, every time it runs, this query runs, it just grabs a row of all the latest KPIs, and then it inserts it into the stack table, which has all of the rows from prior runs. And then finally, I just add some other metrics such as runs ago and um, runs ago within the week. And then, if we run this, it's a transaction table of every single run with high-level KPIs for every single run. And this is what I study. This is how I cover my ass in business intelligence. I always snapshot the input tables that are given to me and make sure that they don't change. And if they do change, then it's not my job to do anything. It's the problem is upstream. It's somewhere in the data engineering realm. They got to fix the ETL. The pipeline broke, and you know, you always just want to figure that out as quickly as possible. If the error is in your realm, then you got a lot of work to do, and it's your job to fix it. But if it's upstream from you, you don't have to do a thing. So this is how I validate my work. I'll validate my projects, figure out whether I'm in the right or I'm in the wrong. Um, it's just validation tables, and I'm going to bring this into my own personal finance ecosystem to just validate tables. I've been working on it long enough to know where things break, so I'm going to put KPIs on those things so that I can just look at some dashboards in Power BI and be able to tell right away whether there's a ETL problem and fix it. All right, that's that. Well, thank you for listening. Have a good day. Bye.